This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning everyone. Bruchim Abam to the Kol Igra de Pirka. Parshas Vayeitzey. So the pasuk tells us that Yaakov Avinu was leaving Beersheva. He was going to Haran, and he came to the Makam HaMikdash. Vayikach me'avnei HaMakam vayosmer asher vayishkav b'Makom hahu. He slept there. So Rashi's bad. No kidding, he slept there. You can't sleep in a different place than you are. Of course, wherever you're sleeping, it's there. So Rashi says Lashon Miyot. It's exclusionary. Ba'osei Makam shachav. He slept there. Avol Yudalit shanim shashimesh beveis ever lo shachav b'layla. The 14 years that it's not just enough to learn, he served. He was Meshamish, the Rebbe. For 14 years he did not sleep at night. Shahaya oisek b'Torah. He was involved in learning Torah. The question is, for some reason, the Torah does not want to tell us explicitly that Yaakov learned. I mean, you would think this was a very important part of his life. He spent 14 years of uninterrupted learning. Sure. So let the Torah say, Vayeitzey Yaakov Beersheva, Avo beVeersheva lo shachav. I mean, say befeirish, say explicitly. Yaakov Avinu spent 14 years learning B'Hasmada Rabbah without interruption, without sleeping. No. We have to figure it out. Why? He slept there, but he didn't sleep somewhere else. I mean, why is the Torah hiding this? But here Chazal are saying that Yaakov Avinu learned Passover, so why wouldn't the Torah tell it to us? Again, another place, how do we know that Yaakov Avinu spent learning in the Yeshiva Shem Vayeiber? At the end of Parshas Chayei, it gives us the years of the life of Yishmael. So Chazal want to know, what do we care how long Yishmael lived? It's important to know how long Yishmael lived. So Rashi again tells us, Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba, Lama nimnu shnoisav shel Yishmael. Why is the Torah enumerating the lifetime of Yishmael? Kedei liyaches bahen shnoisav shel Yaakov, in order to figure out how many years Yaakov lived. Says Rashi, Mishnoisav shel Yishmael, Lamadnu sheshimesh Yaakov v'veisever arba esrei shana. From the years of the life of Yishmael, if you calculate how long Yishmael lived, and based on his life, how long Yaakov lived, you come up with a major problem. And that is, Yaakov Avinu is missing 14 years. Where was he for 14 years? He must have been learning. So again, how do we know Yaakov was learning? From detective work of giving you the amount of years that Yishmael lived, you could figure out Yaakov was missing 14 years. What was he doing? He must have been learning. So why wouldn't the Torah say explicitly that Yaakov spent 14 years learning? I mean, why do we have to figure it out? Again, we're going to figure it out from the lifetime of Yishmael. Vayishkav b'Makom hahu, there he slept, he didn't sleep somewhere else. Yishmael lived a certain amount of years, it must be Yaakov was learning. Okay. So it's a problem. I mean, you would think Yaakov Avinu, we knew, was, of all the Avais, he was the Titei Emes Yaakov. He represented Torah. So tell me, right explicitly. You're right, myself is similar. Say explicitly Yaakov Avinu sat and learned for 14 years. Now, what was he doing in the Yeshiva Shem Vayeiber? He had another kavana in being there also. And that is, he was hiding. Right? Rashi, at the end of last week's Parsha, the end of Toldos, Rashi says another place where we can't calculate 14 years of the life of Yaakov Avinu. Rashi says, Harei Chaserim Yudalit Shanim. We're missing 14 years. Halamadita. What do we learn from here? She'achar shekibel habrachos. After Yaakov received the brachos, Nitman. What does Nitman mean?
Hide.
He was hiding b'veisever Yudalit Shanim. He was hiding b'veisever? I mean, that's the worst hiding place you could possibly imagine. Imagine, Esav is thinking to himself, where's my brother Yaakov? Let me check the pool halls. Let me check the bowling alleys. No, he's not there? Where could he be, Let me check, the Beis Avodah. Of course not. I mean, Yaakov was Ishtam Yoshev Oyhalem, Ta'ayel Shel Shem Shel Eber. I mean, that's the most obvious place. Where's Reb Chaim Kanievsky? He's in the same place he was for the last 90 years. He hasn't moved. He hasn't budged. So if Esav wants to know where Yaakov is, why doesn't he go to the Yeshiva Shem Vayeiber? I mean, Yaakov's hiding there? I mean, what kind of chachma is it to hide in the Yeshiva Shem Vayeiber? That's where he's been his entire life. That's the hiding place. That's the Goynish hiding place he comes up with.
To go to this one book. He's not
It's the most. You mean he outsmarted? He said, "There's no way he's in the yeshiva. He wouldn't do that." I mean, what? Nitman b'Vayeitzey? So the question is raised by the Samderach of Reb Simcha Zisa Broida, the Rosh Yeshiva of Chevron, Knesset Yisrael Zechazak Levracha. He raises this question. He says, look at number 4. When you think about it a little bit, it's a mystery. What kind of hiding was it in the yeshiva of Eber? It's not like, yeshiva Minchas Pinchas that nobody ever heard of, right? This is the one. It's not like 100 branches. There's one yeshiva in the world, Yeshiva Shem Eber. That's where Yaakov is, right? Al pi ha'hegyon, right? Logically, ha'makom harishon shahaya Esav tzarich lechapes os Yaakov yoshev ha'olam haya ba'alai shel Shem Eber.
Isn't the yeshiva Shem Eber a safe house? If you learn there, you're protected.
No. Why is it different than any other yeshiva? I mean, Esav couldn't go in there. They had a building. They had a building fund, a building campaign. Yeah, they had a dinner. So why didn't Yaakov Avinu is going to hide in yeshiva? He said, "Ketzad kara hanes hagadol." How did this miracle happen? That for 14 years, Esav is walking around, with his bow already, pointed. The second he sees Yaakov, he's going to shoot him, and he's searching for him for 14 years. Why didn't you check the Beis Medrash? Why doesn't it dawn on Esav that Yaakov Avinu is hiding in the Beis Medrash? How did it? Right? He says,
Who said that he was looking for him? Because he said, "Ikrevu me'ever levi." He didn't even think about that.
So why was Yaakov Nitman? He was hiding. Presumably, he was hiding because Esav was after him. And why else was he hiding?
In the meantime, he didn't want to kill him.
That's what Esav said. But Rivka told Yaakov, "Get out of here, scram." So he's saying, really Yaakov hid there, but Esav knew he were. Okay. Let's see. What? And then another question, like we asked in the beginning, why doesn't the Torah tell us explicitly it's almost like the Torah is, very scared to tell me this information. And if you're a lam, then you could figure out, but the last 14 years he was learning. What about 14 years of Yaakov? He must have been learning. Why is the Torah so scared to tell me that Yaakov Avinu was learning? So Parshas Vayeitzey enjoys a feature that very few Parshios enjoy. Now our Sifrei Torah may not have it like this. There are different Mesoros here. But Parshas Vayeitzey, according to the Rishonim, is Sesuma. What does it mean, Sesuma? It's not Sesuma Lagamri. It's not like Vayechi. Vayechi, Vayigash ends, and then Vayechi begins after one letter of space. Most Parshios, they're psucha. In other words, the Parsha begins after a line. Wherever the last Parsha ends, the next line the Parsha begins. Between Pez and Samachs, you could have spaces. Parshas Vayeitzey is Sesuma.
How many otiyot? 7 or 9?
Between what?
For 2.
Parshios?
Yeah.
I remember. But Parshas Vayeitzey is Sesuma. It doesn't have the openings from Parsha to Parsha. Right? It doesn't have like between Breishis and Nach, between Nach and Lech Lecha. Instead, it's closed in like any Pei V'Samach. This is Das Zekanim brings down. Why is Parshas Vayeitzey Sasum? Lefikach Parsha Zu Sesuma. Therefore, this parsha is closed up. Mibnei sheyatsa b'tzina, because Yaakov Avinu went out secretly. Mibnei Esav, because of Esav. In other words, the Das Zekanim is clearly saying Yaakov was hiding from Esav. So therefore, the parsha is sasam. What does Yaakov Avinu hiding from Esav got to do with the parsha being sasam? Just because Yaakov Avinu has a problem with Esav, so the parsha has to be closed up? Why do we have to suffer because Yaakov Avinu was running away from Esav? What does the parsha got to do with Yaakov hiding from Esav? And then the Baal Turim adds, Vayeitzey Yaakov, Yesh Oimrim, She Parsha Zu Sesuma. Some say, right, there are different opinions. Some say this parsha is closed up. The hatam, the reason is, Lefi sheyatza b'seiser, he went out secretly, ubarach b'hechaveh, and he fled, in the darkness of night. The question is, why does the parsha have to be sasum just because Yaakov Avinu was running away from Esav? Okay. We have another illustration of this. Parshas Vayeitzey. Yeah? Parshas Vayeitzey we know is sasum lagamri, which means after Vayigash ends, Vayeitzey begins immediately. And Rashi says, Lama Parshas Susuma. Right? Rashi at the beginning of Vayeitzey says, why is Parshas Vayeitzey Susuma? Lefi shekivan sheniftar Yaakov Avinu nistamu einayim v'liban shel Yisrael. Once Yaakov passed away, the eyes, the heart of Klal Yisrael became closed up, shtupped up, mitzaras hashibud, from the pain of the bondage, she'eschilu l'shabdam. So in other words, because when Yaakov passed away, our hearts got closed up, the Parsha was closed up. Okay, what do our hearts and eyes have to do with the Parsha? But it's just a remez to it? And then Rashi says another pshat. Davar acher, shabikesh legalos hasaketz. Yaakov Avinu wanted to reveal the end. V'nistam mimenu. And it got closed off from him. So why is Vayeitzey closed off? Because Yaakov Avinu wanted to reveal the end, and it was closed up. It's good for him. So it was closed up. And therefore, Parshas Vayeitzey has to be closed up. I mean, what does Yaakov have to do with Parshas Vayeitzey? Because information was hidden from him, the Parsha has to be closed off. Now we're going to get to what I call a whopper. Okay? This question is so strong. If you see this Rashi, after you hear this question, you should be, why didn't I think of this question? Okay? At the end of Noach, the end of Parshas Noach, Avram Avinu is about to leave his father, and what does the pasuk say? Vayamas Terach b'charan. Terach died. So Rashi has a kasha. But he didn't die. The Torah says he died, but he didn't die yet. He died 60 years later. So here the Torah is giving me, it's misleading information. The Torah says Terach died, and Terach he's buying milk in the grocery store. So Rashi says, you know what it means Terach died? It means he didn't die yet. That's what Rashi says. Look, Rashi says number 10. La'achar sheyatza Avram mecharan. After Avram left Charan. Ubal eretz Canaan, and he came to Canaan. V'haya sham yoyser mishishim shana. And he's there more than 60 years. That's when he died. In other words, the Torah is giving you inaccurate information. The Torah says Terach died, but the truth is he didn't die until 60 years later. Says Rashi, how do I know Terach didn't die until 60 years later? Because how old was Abraham when he left Haran? 75. How old was Terach when Abraham was born? 70. That means when Abraham left Terach, how old was Terach? 145. And yet we know Terach died at the age of 205. That means he didn't die for another 60 years. So Rashi says, that's how I know Terach didn't die yet. Look a few lines down. Why did the Torah give inaccurate information and made Terach's death precede Abraham's departure 60 years? Look at this. If this makes any sense to you, we have a story. Look at this.
Well, maybe his death is really because when Abraham left and his spirit left, so whatever Terach Neshama was left was gone. Because he was living only because Abraham was there, in a sense. When Abraham is gone...
but let's see, that's how Rashi says. Look what Rashi says. Why does the Torah write Terach died? Why does the Torah write that Terach died? So that it's not widespread news. So that it's not known to the masses that Terach died. Because people are going to start to criticize Abraham. You know what they're going to say? How could he leave his old father and just go to the Holy Land? Why? Because he likes Israel. Yeah, but his father needs his help. So we don't want this to become widespread. That he just left his old father. That's why the Torah calls him dead. And it's not inaccurate because we know the wicked are always called dead. Risham are always called dead. Right? Risham af b'chayim kroyim mesim. So listen to what Rashi's saying. Right? It says Terach died. Terach is, we're walking on the treadmill. You know what the answer is? We don't want anyone to know that Terach died. we don't want anyone to know that Terach is still alive. And therefore, what do we write in the Torah? Vayamas Terach b'char. I don't understand what Rashi's talking about. Are you telling me that, let's say, where did Terach live? In Babylonia, Mesopotamia? So Terach's next door neighbor, he's going to be, he wakes up in the morning, he sees Terach, planting his flowers for the spring. And he says, wait a second. Terach, he looks like he's alive. The only thing is, I opened up the still in Chumash today that doesn't exist, and it says Terach is dead. So therefore, even though I see Terach walking around, but I think he's dead, why? Because that's what it says in the stone translation of the Chumash. Rashi's saying that, why do we write Terach died? Because we don't want people to know that he's still alive. What people? The people who were alive in the time of Terach? What, they didn't read the newspaper? They didn't see Terach? There was no Chumash. It's not like, what, is Rashi saying the people in the time of Terach, they got their information from the Chumash? There was no Chumash. They didn't read the newspaper. I mean, here, there's a Terach came over to the guy, Shalom Aleichem, how are you doing? I don't know who you are. The Torah says you're dead. The Torah said, what? It's like Terach, for 60 years, he was like an invisible ghost because the Torah said he died. I don't understand. Rashi seems to be saying, why do we write Terach died? Because we don't want people to know that he's alive. Which people? Which people? I mean, they got their information from a document that wasn't given yet?
No, to tell us that Rasha is like a dead person.
No, but what does Rashi say? Why do we write Terach died? Shalo yehei hadavar mafursam lakal. So which people? Us? So you want to say what Rashi means is, the Torah doesn't want us to know that, so then why is Rashi telling us?
We should know.
I'm saying, who is the Torah talking to? The Klal Yisrael? We're going to have a taina on Abraham that he left his father? Hashem told him to.
Abraham, we learn from him everything, so we have to know that.
So we should also learn that if Hashem tells you to leave your father and then you listen. I mean, who is this talking to? No, it's for the Bible critics who don't know. I mean, it almost seems like from Rashi that Rashi is saying, why does the Torah write Terach died? So people shouldn't know that he's alive. I mean, the people who are alive in that time, they see him. The people later, us, we're not going to have any tinus on Abraham. Hashem told him to leave his father. Okay, now if that was a whopper, listen to this question. Right, this is what the Sam Darach asks in number 11. Who cares if the Torah wrote Terach died? Imagine like this, they turn on the radio and they hear Terach, he has a commercial for his idol store. Come by my store and buy, idol. Buy one, get two, buy one leg, you'll have two other legs free, right?
It's a franchise.
Right, they used to ask Terach, how's business? He said, thank God, right? So here's a guy, he comes to Terach's store. Good audience. So he comes... They go to Terach's store. Terach says, you want to buy an idol? Say, I can't buy from you because you're dead. I mean, Terach probably, he didn't know what to do with himself. Okay. Now listen to this kasha. Okay, look at number 12. Yeah. Right? What, like Mark Twain writes, news of my death has been premature. Vayishlach lamed hei ches. Yeah? Vayishlach lamed hei ches. Take a look at this. Vatamas Devira Meinekes Rivka, Devira, the wet maid, the wet nurse of Rivka died. Vatikaver mitachas Vayeitzey tachas alon. She was buried beneath Beisel, beneath the tree. Vayikra Shemai Aloin Bachos. Says Rashi, why this double lashon? Look at number 12. Agada Nisbaser Sham Be'evel Sheni. When Devira, the Meinekes Rivka died, they were informed of another tragedy. Shehu gadloi al imai shemesa. They were told about their mother that she died. The aloin, belashon yevani, evel. The word aloin in Greek means mourning. Now listen to this. Why doesn't the Torah write explicitly that Rivka died? Why? Listen to this. You know why the Torah doesn't write that Rivka died? So that people should not curse the womb that produced Esav. So too the Torah does not publicize that Rivka died. In other words, it almost seems like this. Why doesn't the Torah write explicitly Rivka died? Because the Torah doesn't want anyone to know that Rivka died. What in the world? Why? Because the Torah doesn't want anyone to curse Rivka because she gave birth to Esav. So you're telling me that when Rivka died, why didn't anybody know about it? Because it doesn't say it in the Torah? There was no Torah. You're telling me the people, they didn't read the newspapers, they didn't talk to anybody, their information came from the Torah? I mean, somebody was at Rivka's Levaya. So when they hear at the Levaya, Rivka, she had 2 children, Yaakov and Esav. So what's the normal reaction? Normal reaction would be, that woman, she produced an Esav? But why didn't anyone curse Rivka? Because even though they were sitting there at the Levaya, they don't know that she died. Why? Because the Torah doesn't say it. There's a coffin there. No? Not right? Yesterday Rivka was alive, and now when you knock on the door, she ain't there anymore? No, but I don't know that, because the Torah doesn't say it. Rivka used to have the Shechina over her tent, and now it wasn't there anymore. Yeah, but we don't know that, because the Torah doesn't say that she died. I mean, what is that supposed to mean? Rashi seems to be saying, the fact that the Torah hid her death made it that people were not aware that she died. What does that mean? I mean, this is a reoccurring theme in the Chumash. The Torah writes, Terach died, why? Even though he's alive, people are going to think he's dead. Okay. Look at number 14. Look at number 14. He says, V'yesh l'havenis devei Rashi. Shalai hizkir ha'kasav tirasa shel Rivka. The Torah does not mention Rivka's death. The Kafisha Hizber HaRamban, the way the Ramban explains it, Shahatam l'kachaya, the reason was, Kedei shelo yikberu b'nei ches.
What?
We didn't want the b'nei ches to bury it. In other words, what the Ramban brings down, that Yaakov wasn't at the Levaya, Yitzchak wasn't at the Levaya, and the b'nei ches had to bury her. We don't want to publicize that. I don't understand. What, people didn't know who buried Rivka because it doesn't say it in the Torah? I mean, every morning people would take out their Chumash, take out a coffee and read the news. The news, that's what happened today. Rivka died. But we don't know that because the Torah left out that. But people, that's how they would know the news. They would darshan the Kutzah Shal Yuds. Okay. Another very interesting Gemara. The Gemara says, Masechta Shabbos, Daf Kuf Tes Vav Amabez onto Kuf Tes Zayin and Aleph. Right, we know in Parshas Bahaloischa we have Vayhi ben Saya Ha'arain. Yeah? And we know before and after you have the upside down nuns. So the question is, what's the meaning of that?
It's Torah by itself.
Yeah? So Rebbe's opinion, and this is how he paskes, because Sefer B'fnei Atzmahu. It's a Sefer by itself. It's, right, it has only Pei Hei Oisios, it's a Sefer by itself. That's what it means. Chatzva, Amudeha, Shiva. Really, there are 7 books of the Torah, according to Rebbe. But the other opinion in the Gemara is, look at number 15, Taner Rabbanan, Vayhi ben Saya Ha'arain, Vayem Moshe, Parsha zu Asala HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Simniyos, Melmala, Ulamata, Loimar, She'ein Zeh Mekayma. The Torah made markings before and after to say this is not the place. Really, this should be somewhere else. In other words, if you think about it, if you turn to Parshas Bahaloischa, right, Vayhi ben Saya Ha'arain, Vayom Moshe, that doesn't belong in Bahaloischa, it belongs in Parshas Bamidbar. After, how would the Klal Yisrael camp? Certain Shvatim would move first, and then the Arain would move, and then other Shvatim would follow. So really, Vayhi ben Saya belongs in what? In Parshas Bamidbar. It was taken out of Bamidbar and put into Bahaloischa. And how do we know that? Because it has these markings to indicate that it's out of place. Says the Gemara further, Man Tana de Palagalei de Rebbe. Who is the Tana that argues on Rebbe and says that this Parsha is out of order? Reb Shimon Gamliel, who the Tanya, Reb Shimon Gamliel Omer, Asida Parsha zu sheti akar mikan la'asud lavi. This Parsha will be uprooted and moved elsewhere. The Tikasa b'Mekame will be written in its place. V'lama kasva kan. Why did the Torah inject Vayhi ben Saya in Bahaloischa? Kidei lahafzik. Ben Paranos, Rishayna, Le Paranos, Shniya, in order to separate between the first punishment and the second punishment. What was the first punishment? Vayisu mehar Hashem, according to Tosfos, that means they ran away from Har Sinai, Ketinoi, Havarech Midei Sasefer. What was the second paranos? Vayihi ha'am kimesainanim. We don't want to put two punishments together, so therefore we break it up with what? We break it up with Vayihi ben Saya. The Ramban adds, okay, listen to this. You know why we break it up with Vayihi ben Saya? Because we don't want to have three consecutive punishments. Vayisu mehar Hashem, Vayihi ha'am kimesainanim, and V'ha'asafsaf asher b'kirba hisavu taiva. Look at the Ramban. Look in number 16.
Is that the same?
It was
Asafsaf and Sanim is the same thing, no?
There was, the Mesainanim were a smaller group, and it spread to the rest of Klal Yisrael. But look what the Ramban says. He says on the 1, 2, 3, the fourth line, the Zehu Paranos Rishana. That was the first Paranos that they ran away from Har Sinai. The Hifsuk, and the Torah interrupted with Vayihi ben Saya. Shaloi Yiu Shalosh Paranios Smuchai Zulazu. So you don't have three in a row. What would be so terrible if we would have three punishments in a row? V'nimtzu muchzakim b'paranos. If we would have three punishments in a row, we would become muchzak. We would have a status of punishment. Now the Ramban says, what do you mean punished? It's not like we were punished, but a chet is like punishment, and it says Ramban, it could be that's why we didn't go into Eretz Yisrael. So listen to this. It also is mamish, very difficult to understand. The Ramban says that why do we inject Vayihi ben Saya? Because we don't want to write three punishments back to back to back. So what do? We stick in something that doesn't belong. I don't understand. But did it happen back to back to back? Did Klal Yisrael sin? Vayisu mehar Hashem.
No.
Vayihi ha'am kimesainanim. V'ha'asafsaf Shiur. They did.
Yeah.
They did. So very nice. You're writing in the Torah. You're writing in a sentence. Very nice. I don't care. That's an editorial comment. You're sticking something in. But it happened. Back to back to back. So what difference does it make how you write it? If it happened, so we're already muchzak b'paranios. What it matters how you write it in the Torah? Then it happened back to back to back. So let's just recap. Okay? We're not saying the order. Here it happened to be.
I'm surprised that Rashi mentions the Misa of Terah. He could have just said.
Oh, that's what Rashi is relying on.
A simpler explanation of. We have many times Ein Mukta B'Torah, and we don't make sense.
Ein Mukta B'Torah is if you have one Parsha and then later another Parsha, so it doesn't have to be in a chronological sequence. Right. But here it says Terach died and Avraham left. We don't say Ein Mukta B'Torah from one pasuk to another. The Torah is giving you the sequence of events. The Torah is telling you how it happened. So you're not going to say, oh, it didn't happen like that. Ein Mukta B'Torah is, you have one story and then another Parsha, you have another story. We don't necessarily say that the second story happened after the first story.
So we have
here, okay, that's two different parashos. But here, it says explicitly. It says, Vayamas Haran. Which parsha is it going on? Yud Aleph Lamed Beis. It says, "Vayiyu mei terach chamesh shanim v'sam shanim vayamas terach b'charan vayam Hashem l'Avram lachacham." It's the next pasuk. Okay, so let's recap. Number one, we want to know why does the Torah not want to say that Yaakov Avinu learned in the yeshiva Shem Be'ever? That's number one. Right? Torah is going about in a roundabout way. Vayishka b'makom hahu, from the years of the life of Yishmael. Question number two, we wanted to know what kind of hiding place is Yeshiva Shem Be'ever. That should be the most obvious place for Esav to look. Question number three, what's the connection between the fact that Yaakov was hiding and the fact that the parashios are sasam? Number four, we wanted to know what's the fact that our minds became sasam and the fact that Parshas Vayechi is sasam. Number six, we wanted to know why would the Torah write that Terach died? What, so people shouldn't know that he's alive and people don't get their information from the Chumash? And number seven, the Torah doesn't write Rivka died, so people shouldn't know. Again, people don't get their information from the Chumash. And then we wanted to know that what does the Ramban mean that we don't want to write three Paranias together so we don't become muchzak? I mean, that's how they happen. Who cares how you write them? So Rabbi Glatstein, we learn from here, mamish a yisoid amoik. and that is that the words of the Torah are not just a record of what happened, but the words of the Torah actually create what happens. Okay? It creates not just Maisa Avos Sinim and Labanim, not just what Abraham does affects us. The way the Torah writes what happened to Abraham is what created what happened to Abraham. If the Torah, it doesn't matter how it happened that we sinned 3 times together. If the Torah put in the Chumash, Paranos, Klal Yisrael would become Muchzik b'Paranos. Why does it matter how it's written? Isn't it more important how it happened? No. Reality is how it's written. The Torah creates the identity, the destiny of Klal Yisrael. If the Torah would record Paranos, that would create that Klal Yisrael is now an Am that is Muchzik b'Paranos, that we're destined for punishment. So what do we see from here? That the wording of the Torah, the sequence of the Torah, is vital for the way things actually occur in the reality. That's what the Samdarach points out, and we'll see what this means. Mefurish b'dvar me'el, look at number 17. Davar mufla b'yosef. We see a wondrous concept. Im hayu gimel haparaniyos ksuvos bezeh achar zeh. If the Torah would have written 3 consecutive punishments, hayu muchzakum b'paraniyos. That would have made a chazaka. V'haisa nikbas metzios masmedes shel paranis. That would have created a consistent continuity of paranis. B'sakanu meduktuk midas hadin. Look at next paragraph.
How do we know that 3?
3 is chazaka. 3 is chazaka. V'yisoid hadvarim hamisbar b'zeh. The foundation is shekal ois. Every letter. So what we're learning is every ois, every letter. V'gam seder haparshios, the order. Koiveya es metzios hahanhaga ba'olam, establishes the laws of the universe. Koloimar, kama shenichta b'Torah hu hashayrish l'kol hametzios. If the Torah says, it's not that Hashem created the light and then the Torah records Vayomer Elokim Yihiyar. No, Hashem took the Torah, He read the words Vayomer Elokim Yihiyar, and that's how there was light. It's not that the Torah is a record of what happened. The Torah are the architectural plans of what is unfolding. We'll see what this means. The Torah is the form, the mold of reality. Whatever happens in the world. You know, you have a scientist, right? What happens if, you take an atom, yeah? And you take one proton and you just move it a little bit, or you split it. What happens?
Big explosion.
Atom bomb. Right. Yeah? You split the atom. If you move, right, you have one atom. You move one proton, one neutron. That's it. You have people indelibly imprinted in a bridge in Japan. You have the destruction of, cities. Why? Because the atom is the building block of matter. If you split the yesod, you split the matter, it has terrible repercussions. Every word of the Torah is like an atom. If you take one letter, if we were to take one letter of the Torah and take it out, a kutzah shel yud, it would be worse than an atom bomb. It would destroy the whole world. The Torah is the foundation of the world. The Yalkut Shemaini says like this. Yalkut says, the Torah existed 974 generations before the world was created. That's what we say every day in davening. Davar, Tziva, La'elef, God gave the Torah in the 1000th generation. It was only 26, right? Moshe Rabbeinu was 26, but already predated the world 974 generations. Kaidam ha'olam, Yashav HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'darash, v'chakar, u'bachan, v'tziref v'skal Torah kula. Hashem expounded, He investigated, He searched, He purified the Torah, u'miyam shenivra ha'olam ad ois hashah, from the day the world was created until now. V'chol davar shu midivrei Torah, every matter of the Torah, darshai, v'chaykroi, v'tzarfai, 248 times. Look at the next line. V'chol davar v'davar shekava b'Torah, anything in the Torah, im zazmi mekaymai kima, if you would take one aleph and just move it, kilkol as kol ha'olam kulai, it would destroy the whole world. That would be like, imagine somebody, right, it's like splitting the atom. It's like it would create an earthquake. If a letter, right, that's right, if a Balkari makes a mistake, what happens? Everyone jumps on it. Everyone wants to kill him. What do you want from the poor guy? He was up late, Friday night, it's the end of the week, he missed the little yud. So what, he didn't say the yud? You're gonna back? No. If you miss every letter of the Torah, it's like a building block of the universe. Right? Imagine like this. Imagine if the sun was 3 feet closer to Earth. We wouldn't be here anymore.
You wouldn't be here to begin with.
Yeah. If one ice of the Torah, instead of one space, there are 2 spaces, that would be more detrimental to the universe than if you would move, right? If we were closer to the sun and the gravitational force was stronger, the whole world would go haywire. If one ice of the Torah was out of place, it would destroy the world. Okay, let's develop this. Not only that, certain parts of the Torah have to be open, certain parts of the Torah have to be revealed. Why? Because there's certain things, if Hashem used the Torah to create the world, there's certain things in this world we see, certain things we don't see. Rav Aaron Cutler said, Mamish ga'aynas dik pshat. Right? There's a big question. Rabbi say, what are we here for? Why did Hashem create the world? Why did Hashem put us here? Olam hazeh, doimeh, lefroizdar, b'fnei, olam haba. Right? Olam haba is a yisoid ha-yisoidos. So I have a question for you. Yeah, so olam haba is so important. Where is it? Go through the Chumash. Somebody tell me. Where is olam haba? Doesn't say it anywhere. Says Rav Aaron Cutler, I'll tell you why it's not in the Chumash. Because how did Hashem create the world? Through the Torah. Now there are certain things in this world that you could see, certain things you can't see. Olam haba is something that Hashem does not want us to see openly, right? Ayin lo yirasa elokim zulasecha. Hashem doesn't want us to see olam haba. If olam haba would be in the Chumash, we would have to see it openly. Because the Chumash are the architectural plans of the revealed aspect of creation. So you know why Olam Haba is not mentioned in the Chumash? Rav Aaron Cutler says, because since the Chumash, right? You know why you see birds? Because it says birds in Parshas Bereshis. You know why you see parents? Because it says parent. Whatever you could see with your physical eyes is mentioned in the Chumash. Says Rav Aaron Cutler. It's here somewhere on the sheet later on, in number 25. You know why Olam Haba is not mentioned in the Chumash? Because since the Chumash are the architectural plans, Hashem hid what He doesn't want us to see, and Hashem put openly what He wants us to see. So Olam Haba cannot be written in the Chumash. It can only be in the Torah Shabbat Peh. It's in the hidden, it's in the closed section of the Torah, because this is something Hashem doesn't want us to see. Rabbi Glatstein, remember, who taught the Targum on Nevi'im? Rabbi Yonasan ben Uziel. Right? Not on Chumash. On Chumash, even though it says Targum Yonasan ben Uziel, it's not. The Chidah says it's not Yonasan ben Uziel. The Targum Yonasan was only on Nevi'im. What happened when Yonasan ben Uziel revealed the Targum on Nevi'im? The Gemara Megillah says, Daf Gimel, Targum shel Nevi'im Yonasan ben Uziel Amru mipichage zchar malachi v'nizdaza Eretz Yisrael arba me'as Parsha Eretz Yisrael shook. Why did Eretz Yisrael shake? Because Hashem says, this is a chelek in Torah that I want it to be hidden. You're going to bring it out into the open. That's going to change the entire world. The world can't handle that. It created a reverberating earthquake. So, who says this? Beferish, this is what the Nefesh HaChaim writes. The Nefesh HaChaim writes, look at number 22, Reb Chaim Volozhiner. He says, Hashem used the Torah to create the world. Look at number 22. L'chein, ba ne'etzlu v'nivru kol ha'ilamos al yonim v'tachtonim. Through the Torah, Hashem created all the ilamos, all the upper worlds, all the lower worlds. Kamashakasav, like it says in Mishlei, va'eya etzloi amain. I will be to it amain, says the Medrash, al tikri amain ela uman. In other words, the Torah, the same way if you're making a garment, your machine, your sewing machine is what creates the garment. God's machine with which He created the world was the Torah. Look further on. This is, very lofty concept. Look in the third paragraph of number 22, about 7 lines down. He's quoting from the Zion Parshas Truma. In the Torah it says Bereshis bara. Istakel b'hai mila ubaras hashemayim. It's not that Hashem created the Shemayim and then he said, oh, let me write a diary of what I did. No, just the opposite. How did Hashem create the Shemayim? He read the words. Bereshis bara Elokim eis hashemayim b'yasaras. Look at Ksibba vayom Elokim yihiyar istakel b'hai mila ubaras ha'ar. God looked at those words, He created the light. V'chein b'chol mila umila d'chsiv ba'iraisa. Every word of the Torah istakel kudsha brichu. He looked at it v'aved mila.
So when it says vayomas terach avihavra.
Well, let's see.
That's what he died when the Kodesh Baruch Hu said that.
Let's see. Says the Samdarach, now we understand. If the Torah would have written 3 perennials, one after another, that would have created the reality that Klal Yisrael are destined perennials. They've established a certain pattern. But if Hashem doesn't write it like that, even though it did occur one after another, that's not the reality. The reality is not what happens. The reality is what is in the architectural plans. That is the reality.
What do you mean the reality is not what happened? But it happened.
It happened, but it didn't happen fundamentally. It happened b'mikra, in other words. It's not written like that. So it didn't happen muchsakim. It didn't happen... Yeah, it happened to occur one after the other. That's not a chazaka. Chazaka is when it's muchach. That's how it has to be. That's what he says.
There's a mitziut. What is mitziut? You're sitting right over here.
Let's see. Not only is how something is written in the Torah what creates the reality, but the order of the Parshios and the spaces also create the reality. So he says like this. Look at number 24. Lefi yisoid, according to this principle, shekal ois shenichtava b'Torah, that every letter that's written in the Torah, va'afilu seder ha'parshios, even the order, koiveya es metzias ha'anhaga b'olam, creates the reality. Mavor hetiv inyan stimas Parshas Vayeitzey Parshas Vayeichei. Now we know why there are no openings in Vayeitzey Vayeichei. You know why? It's not that Yaakov ran away, so the Torah says, oh, let me write a nice little cute remez, so I'm not going to make a space in the Parshas. The Torah says like this, Yaakov is running away. How is Yaakov going to be able to run away in a way that Esav is not going to find him? Hashem takes, the all-powerful Das Elyon, and he fuses, through molecular Torah, whatever, right? And he fuses the two parshas together. There's no opening. Now Yaakov Avinu is now hidden. He's in the most obvious place in the world. He's in Yeshiva Shem Be'ever. Esav has no idea where he is. You know why? Because the Torah omits that Yaakov is in Yeshiva Shem Be'ever. The Torah removes it from the blueprint. The Torah takes it out of the plans. So even though Yaakov is there, in some way, it's almost like he's not there. He's not. When Esav is thinking, where's Yaakov? When Esav is looking, where's Yaakov? He ain't be Yeshiva Shem Be'ever. Why? Because the Torah has
removed it.
Cut him out, right? It's like the Torah Hashem with the Das Elyon removes that concept from the Torah that Yaakov Avinu is learning the Yeshiva Shem Be'ever, and the Torah doesn't write Yaakov's learning there. It says he slept in that place. We'll figure out on our own that's where he was. We'll figure out on our own where there are 14 years missing in Ishmael's life. But the fact that the Torah doesn't write it openly means in the revealed realm of the world, Yaakov Avinu ain't there. Esav has no idea where he is. The Torah fuses the parshas together. It's not a remez to the fact that he's hiding. That makes it that he's not able to be found. That makes it that the reality is Yaakov is not able to be found. Why were our hearts stopped up and clogged up when Yaakov Avinu died? Because the Torah took the two parshios, right? The parshios is what creating the reality, fused them together. Now in our minds, we're stuffed up. Yaakov Avinu wanted to reveal the Kates. Why was he unable to? Because the Torah moved the two parshios together, fused them together. This was information that was not open to him. What do you mean? But the most obvious place in the world where Yaakov is hiding is Yeshiva Shem Be'ever. What, Esav couldn't have thought of that? No. You know why? That wasn't a possibility. That was min hanimna. It was not min hametzios. It didn't exist. It was removed from this world. It was removed from this world. People want to know. Avram Avinu leaves his father. But wait a second. People are going to start criticizing Avram Avinu because he left his father alive. No. In people's mind, Terach is over batal.
He's gone.
What do you mean he's over batal? But he's walking around. He's going to the grocery store, and then he goes to the gym, right? And then he does his other thing. He plays baseball on Sunday. Yeah? No, he's dead. But what do you mean he's walking around? In people's mind, he's already, over batal. Because what do you mean? The Torah, the people are not getting their information from the Chumash. It's not that people are waking up in the morning reading the Chumash. Oh, Terach's dead. Oh, even though I see him walking around. No, that created a certain reality that people are not cognizant of the fact that Terach should be alive in order to start criticizing Abraham. Every time they think, wait a second, how could this old man be walking around? Why would his son just leave, forsake him? These type of thoughts didn't enter their mind because it was almost removed from reality.
Not almost, it was removed.
It was. Yeah. Now, does that mean people didn't see Terach? He was invisible? No, I wouldn't say that. People knew he was alive. But if the Torah hid it for a certain reason so people shouldn't do it, that means the result, in other words, people would never think, oh, Terach is alive. Why would Abraham forsake his father? The fact that Torah hid it made that these thoughts are not possible to have. Right? Rivka died, everybody's at the Levaya, everybody's crying, everyone's sitting Shiva. Where's Yaakov and Esav? And they see, they come into the house and they see, going up the steps, there's a little red baby when he was born, and they see the Yaakov Avinu, and they see the pictures all over the house, and then as they're getting older, and Rivka's saying, this is my Yaakov. When he was in the 8th grade, he was, the Masmid HaShavua, and there's an empty picture frame right next to it, she doesn't want to talk about. And nobody thinks, well, how could a mother produce such a murderer? Why not? Because the fact that the Torah didn't write that Rivka died made it almost as if it was not min hametzius that she died. Right? It's not Rivka. Yeah. Okay. It's a very powerful concept. It's a tremendous concept.
So this is all for the time that people was there. What about today?
Even today. Hashem made it min hanimna that people are not going to be cursed Rivka when they learn about her history, because almost the fact that she died is something that is overlooked, is not mentioned explicitly. Hashem removed that. But in terms of answering the question, why would an Esav find Yaakov? That's really a very profound answer. That the fact that the Torah doesn't write it explicitly made it that it's removed from reality. To everybody, to the world, to existence, to the existence, to existence. Now listen to this. He takes this even further. In Parshas Vayishlach, look at this. Parshas Vayishlach, Perek Lamed Beis, Pasuk Tezvav, number 28. It says that the animals, next week, right? The animals that Yaakov Avinu is sending to Esav, and it says he sent the male goats, the female goats, the male ram, the female, right? The male, okay. Then it says Gemalim Enikos, the nursing camels, Uvenehem, and their children. So Rashi wants to know, what about the husbands? Why only the mothers and the children? Umedrish Agada, Ubeneim Banaehem, they're builders. Zachar Keneged Nekeva. Ulafi Shetzanu Abetashmish, because camels are modest. Like Pirsimo HaKasav, the Torah doesn't write the female camels and the male camels. The Torah just writes the females and Beneim, their children, but the remez is, it's a remez to the males. So the Samdach wants to know, I don't understand. Why is the Torah giving me a remez to the fact that camels are tsanua b'tashmish? Well, it's like rewarding them. Since you're tsanua b'tashmish, we're going to throw you a bone. We're not going to write ubanehem, we're going to write uvenehem. Says the Samdach, no, it's much deeper than that. What created the reality that of all the animals, the camels are the most modest? The fact that in Parshas Vayishlach, the Torah doesn't write Meinikais, Ubaneim and their husbands, Uveneim and their children, and the Torah covers up the relation between the husband and the wife. That creates the fact that camels are tsanua. It's not after the fact. It's not the Torah is being merames to this Indian that's camels. The fact that the Torah left out an ice, that ice changed the chemistry, the biology of Gemalim.
That caused the biology.
Yeah, that caused
That was the cause.
That caused it.
Basically, yeah.
And he brings one last idea, very amazing idea. Before we get to that, I just want to add to what he's saying, that in last week's Parsha, in Parshas Toldos, it says, Eila Toldos Yitzchak ben Avraham, Avraham Hailedas Yitzchak. So Rashi wants to know, if he's Yitzchak ben Avraham, obviously Avraham Hailedas Yitzchak. So Rashi says like this, why did it have to say Avraham Hailedas Yitzchak? Rashi brings down, the late Sonei Hadar would say that Sarah was mistaber from Avimelech, because many years she's together with Avraham, nothing happened. All of a sudden, after one time with Avimelech, she gives birth. What did HaKadosh Baruch Hu do? He formed the face of Yitzchak to look like Avraham. V'yidu Akol, and everyone testified, Avraham Hailedas Yitzchak. And that's why it says Yitzchak ben Avraham. Why? Because now we have Eidos that Avraham gave birth to Yitzchak. Understand? So you're telling me you had late Sonei Hadar, and they open up the Chumash. Oh, the Chumash says Avraham Hailedas Yitzchak. Okay, never mind. I'm not going to be mevazah him anymore. I mean, what's Rashi saying? Because the Torah wrote Avraham. I mean, people are not. First of all, even if they did have a Chumash, nobody would care that the Chumash said Avraham Hailedas Yitzchak. Second of all, they didn't have a Chumash, and this is going to quiet the late Sonei Hadar. What? Same you said. What? Sar Klaster Pano. So you mean this is just a remiss that he was Sar Klaster Pano. So according to what he's saying, you could say, how was Hashem Sar Klaster Pano of Shal Yitzchak? By saying the extra words, Abraham, Hailedas Yitzchak. That made that now there is an open reality and a clear lakol. It's mafursam lakol that Abraham Hailedas Yitzchak. He adds, that's what we're adding, he adds one more point. And that is, we know that many people have a custom, not so common anymore, to fast Erev Shabbos, Parshas Chukas. Why? Because in France, in what year, 1240, 20 wagon loads of Svarim were burnt in France. So says the Magen Avram, okay, very nice. So we should fast on the day of the week, on the day of the month that they were born. Why would you fast Erev Shabbos? Says the Magen Avram, Shemitoich she'elas chaloim, they made a she'elas chaloim, noida lahem, they realized, she'yom ha-parsha goyim, that it's the day of the Parsha that caused it. Because what did Hashem tell them in this dream? Da gezeras ayraisa, right, they made a she'elas chaloim. Is this in fact a decree from heaven? And they got a 3-word response, da gezeras ayraisa. This is the decree of Hashem. So the Magen Avram is bothered by a question. The rest of the year, we don't do things by the day of the week. We do things by the day of the month. Pesach is the 15th of Nisan. Tisha B'Av is the 9th of Av. Asar B'Teves is the 10th of Teves. Yom Gedaliah is Gimel Tishrei. Why all of a sudden do we make a fast on a Friday? Not the Yom HaChodesh, but the Yom HaShavua? Says the Magen Avram, they realized that the Parsha had an effect. Why? Because Parshas Chukas begins Zois Chukas HaTorah, and the Targum is Dagzar Saraisa. So therefore, there was an effect that the Parsha had that made this time a time of, that was able to be a time of misfortune for Klal Yisrael. So the Samderach points out, think about this. Not only does every letter of the Torah change reality, create reality. Not only does every space of the Torah create reality. Not only does the Parshios, the openings, the closings, the Kutzashiyot change reality. When we read a specific Parsha during the year, that also changes the reality. In other words, the Chazal of the time understood that why was this tragedy happening? Because Parshas Chukas is being laid on this Shabbos. And the fact that we're reading this part of the Torah at this time, that created a certain episode to happen. That's a very profound idea. But then he adds one more point, and that is, if the Torah is not just a record, but actually what we call the atoms of the universe, and to move like the Yalkut Shimoni says. What would happen if one letter would be moved? The world would be destroyed. It would be like, if we would take the moon out of the universe, the effect that would have on the gravitational pull, everything would be destroyed. Says the Samderach, think about the godless of the Avos. Think about the godless of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. For the kavod of Rivka Yimenu, Hashem was ready to get in there with his splicing ability and remove the words Rivka died. It's not such a pashut thing just to take words out of Torah. If you tamper with one ice of the Torah, it could destroy the whole world. But for the honor of Rivka Yimenu, we're going to do it. For the honor of Avram Avinu, even though the Torah would have said that Tarach didn't die, for the honor of Avram Avinu, in other words, you see the chashivos ha'avos, that even though if you move one ois of the Torah, it could be mekalkel the whole world, for the kavod of Abraham, for the kavod of Rivka, Hashem is willing to do it. So you see, first of all, the Torah, it's the most powerful, awesome, sensitive document. You have to be so careful with every prat. But you also see the tremendous godless of the Avos, that Hashem is willing, so to speak, to tamper with it for their kavod. Have a wonderful day.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.